Hi everybody, welcome to the webinar today. You've seen the housekeeping details on that first screen obviously. So if you'd like to turn your cameras off and your microphones off, that would be great. And then also I was just introducing our speaker, Annie Fascinetti, who is our co-author of Oxford Maths for Australian Schools. I wanted to give a shout out to Brian Murray. He is our other co-author and he's listening at home in the Blue Mountains today and watching, I think. So hi, Brian. Annie's held many roles over her teaching career, as I'm sure you could see in that slide we have on the screen for you. And she's going to talk about the importance of differentiation in the classroom and why she's passionate about taking this approach with her students. And also we're going to show you how that's reflected in the whole Oxford Maths program. Later on, we'll hear from Zena Mabani. Zena's a teacher at Amity College, Preston's campus in New South Wales, a grade 6 teacher. And Zena has been using the Oxford Maths program for a couple of years, and we're really delighted that she could join us to tell you about her experiences. So I will just close a few of these windows on my screen, and I will hand over to Annie. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so bear with me when we start doing that. There will be a little bit of moving around on the screen. That should be fine. So I'll hand over to Annie to talk a little bit about Oxford Maths.
That's right.
And we'll start showing you some of the features.
Thanks, Emma. And thank you everyone for coming too. So as Emma mentioned, I'm quite a fan of differentiation. And in terms of maths, it actually started some time ago when I went to a maths PD when I was teaching a 1-2 class. And then you go to PDs and sometimes there's one thing that really stays with you. And the thing that stayed with me from this time was that every child should experience success in every maths lesson. And I thought about some of the kids in my class who didn't feel successful in maths. And I thought about their parents who, if you ask them, probably said, I hate maths, I'm not good at maths. And the kids then grow up so like they're good at maths. And I realised it's really important, and that's when differentiation for me really became something that I integrated into all teaching, but particularly in maths teaching.
Cameras off.
So one of the unique things about Oxford Maths is that it uses a gradual release of responsibility model, which is basically I do, we do, you do. So that enables students to work independently if they're able, while teachers can support those who are less confident, and also those who are very competent can get a different level of challenge. So the Oxford Maths program is built around 3 levels of ability: support, at standard and extension, and the structure enables the program to offer different pathways within the one program for different students with their different needs.
Okay, so we're going to walk you through a topic in Oxford Maths to show you how it works. So we're just going to go into Oxford Maths now to show you a few screens and how the program supports differentiation. We've chosen Year 3 Topic 2, which is odd and even, as you can see on your screen there. And we've chosen this one because number and place value is really critical to all other areas of maths, so this is a good topic to start with. So we're going to show you some of the features of Oxford Maths within this topic. So we're going to start with a little look at the learning sequence, which you will find in the resources. So all the learning notes for Oxford Maths are now in a PDF format like this one. Annie?
So in the learning sequence, as you'll see on screen, they always start with the curriculum link. So there's Australian curriculum, Victorian curriculum, and the New South Wales syllabus. And then the next thing is a learning focus, which gives you a quick summary of what the topic's about. If you're a school that uses learning intentions, they can be easily tweaked. I know different schools sort of phrase them in different ways, so the learning focus should be able to be pretty easily tweaked to suit what your school does if that's what you do. Below that, there's the materials that you need for the topic, and we've tried to keep them to things that teachers will commonly have, like playing cards and dice and those sorts of things. Where you need other resources, they're on the dashboard, and we'll show you that a little bit later. Then each topic has a potential difficulties part in it that helps you anticipate some of the problems that students might have with a particular topic. So for odd and even numbers, you'll see that the focus is on the concept of zero for this one. And for this topic and some other topics, there's also a video, and that gives you a bit of an explanation and a visual demonstration that will help you identify and support students who are having trouble. Thank you. So the next thing in the learning sequence, which I probably didn't explain clearly, but that's actually sort of the program that you follow to implement Oxford Maths and differentiate within your class. It gives you sort of a blueprint for it. So each topic has a daily practice activity, and that might be a 5-minute game or a little task that reinforces the learning that you can do every day, either at the start of maths or when you have sort of that 5 minutes before the bell's going to go and you don't quite know what to do. And some teachers will do their daily practice that goes with the topic they're currently doing, while other teachers like to use it as a bit of a refresher later in the year, or you can do both if you wanted to. So then from there, there's pre-assessment, which Emma will talk you through.
Yeah, so I'll just bring back to the dashboard here. So session 1 for every topic in Oxford Maths is around pre-assessment. And we have pre-tests for every topic in the assessment book that comes with the student book. And we also have online pre-tests, which I'll show you a bit later. At the moment, we're working on the 2nd edition of Oxford Maths. And for those of you who are familiar with the assessment book, you'll know that sometimes there's 2 pre-tests and post-tests to a page. So one of the improvements we're making for the 2nd edition is that every test will be a full page. So this will make it just a bit easier for your students if they're using the assessment book. There's no confusion over when to stop or when to start a particular pre-test for a topic. So we're looking forward to that improvement as we bring out the 2nd edition. So I'm going to open a pre-test for you. I'm just using the pre-test resources that are here on the teacher dashboard. So this is what you'll find in the current assessment book. And we'll just scroll down to see the pre-test for topic 2, odd and even. And Annie can tell you a bit about that.
So you'll see from that, as Emma said, they are being extended to a full page, but they're designed to be really simple and quick to administer. So not something that's going to take a lesson, but something that's going to take maybe 5-10 minutes. And then it gives you a snapshot of which students are operating at standard, which are above and which are below level standard. And of course, you as a teacher know your kids a lot better than a one-page test does. So you still need to use your professional judgment, but it gives you a little benchmark to go from.
Close out of that and go back to the teacher dashboard. And I'll just open Interactive so people can see that.
So for each topic, there's always an interactive to introduce it. And you can use that either at the front of class to do it as a whole class activity, or students can access it on their dashboard as well. And as you can see, that's an interactive that gives some of the basic concepts that go with the topic that's being studied.
Yeah, so you can use these on the whiteboard at the front of class, and as Annie said, we've got them also on the student dashboards for years 3 to 6 at the moment, which is great if students want to revisit the concept or just need a little bit more support or a bit of a memory jog as well. That's really handy for them. I'll close out of that and I'll go back into that learning sequence. So we're down here now in session 2, and yeah, as Annie said, you've now got your group sorted out for you, which really helps with guiding you through the topic and having each student on a pathway that suits them. So we're in topic 2 at the moment, and then the next activity is the whole class activity.
Yep. So each topic always has a whole class introductory activity that's hands-on. So in this case, it's a game that the whole class plays, and then students can play in pairs. And those who are managing well, there's an extended prompt to push them on. Often there's a chance for students to work in cross abilities, or you may put them in like abilities depending on the topic.
And then we will scroll down a little bit further, and this is where the student book comes into play. So now you have your students hopefully sorted into the 3 groups, which will help you manage those different levels a lot more easily. And if we go back into the teacher dashboard, we have the pages of the student book here, as you know. And we can click right into those to give you a better view. Annie will talk about how you use these. So I'll just keep this screen open while she does that.
Okay, so the first page is called guided practice, and that gives a bit of support for the topic. And the second is independent, which takes away some of the scaffolds and gets the students to do it independently. They're called practice for a reason, because it's actually really easy to forget that students need practice, and you sort of think, oh, they can do that. But to become fluent in a topic, even your more capable students benefit from practice to just consolidate that. So Oxford Maths organises it so that the extension groups go straight to the student book, and that frees up the teacher to be working with the students who need support. So there's a separate activity for the support students, which includes more hands-on work that the teacher will be doing with the students, often visual resources, more so that they can sort of take a little step back and understand the concept. Any of the resources that you need that are printed, like a 10 frame or a 0 to 99 chart, are on the dashboard. So they're really easy to find and print if you don't already have them in your classroom. So the teacher actively supports students to complete the guided practice, and that gives them a chance to be successful in that group, and also gives the teacher a good idea of how they're progressing in their topic. So while the teacher's working with the support group, an early finisher activity is always provided for the at-standard group, which was important to me because I know when I work with groups even now, inevitably someone comes to you and says, I've finished, what do I do? So there's a what do I do activity for them. So that means they shouldn't need to interrupt you. They can go straight on to that activity.
I'll just click back into the learning sequence again. So we come to session 3. I'm doing this rather slowly too. I hope it's working on everybody's screens. So session 3 is more instruction and consolidation. Annie, I'll hand that one to you again.
Yep, so then there's always at least one other whole class activity that consolidates the concept. So in this case, students have got a chance to use the knowledge that they've acquired on odd and even numbers to investigate the effect of adding odd and even numbers. And in this particular one, there's mixed ability groupings, which then allow students to benefit from hearing each other's thinking. After that, the support group goes to do the independent practice because they've actually completed the guided practice with the teachers, and the at-standard group then has a chance to work with a teacher. It's another opportunity to consolidate learning and to observe how children are going with the concept. The at-standard group will then go and do the extended practice, and the teacher can check in with the support group to see how they're going and make sure with the independent practice and support them with the extended practice. In the meantime, for the extension group, there's always at least one and sometimes more than one activity sheet. So the activity sheet offer a contextualised investigation or a real-life problem, and that allows students to make generalisations based on their observations or extend their thinking on a topic. This particular sheet leads students to understand what happens when you add and subtract different combinations of odd and even numbers. So it sort of pushes their thinking a bit more. It's a good way to extend students because we tend to sometimes, our best students, their reward for completing their work is more of the same work. And while they need some practice, they don't need that much. So this is a good way to actually extend them so that they're working further. I did just want to point out that foundation is organised differently because most students can't read or work independently, and especially at the start of the year. So if you're a foundation teacher and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this wouldn't work for me, there's sort of a whole other sequence which we won't go into now for that, but there was always whole class and hands-on activities as well as teacher support for the student book with foundation students. So from there, some topics have a further session that offer another whole class activities. So for example, length and area has a lot of content to cover, so that has a further sort of session. And some of the place value ones that require more depth also have another session.
Okay, so we've moved through the sessions, obviously much more quickly than you will do with your students. And our final session for each topic is post-assessment. So just as with the pre-tests, we have post-tests for every topic. And you'll find those in the assessment book that comes with the student book. And we also have online post-tests, which I'm going to show you. And again, as I mentioned, in the second edition of Oxford Maths that will be out later in the year, the post-test will also take up a full page just to avoid any kind of confusion there. I'll close the learning sequence. I'll open up a post-test. So this is what you would see in the assessment book. And again, this is the one for odd and even that we're looking at. And Annie can talk a bit about how this works.
Yep. So like the pretest, they're designed to be done really quite quickly in your class so that you're not wasting a lot of lesson time on it. But they also help you be able to monitor student growth. So the pretests actually look at sort of just below standard, and then there are questions at standard, but the post-test looks at standard and goes a little bit beyond. So you can see if your students are really have really got the concept really well, or if they might need a little bit of work down the track with it.
Right, so I'll close out of that. I'm going to go back to the top of the resources tab here just to show you how many resources are on the dashboard. So below each page, you have the associated resources, but if you go into the resources tab, these are organised slightly differently. Also, just a quick hint for anyone already using the program, you can get rid of that banner if it's taking up room on your screen, which it often does, so it's just easier to see more on your screen. So looking at the Year 3 resources, you'll see that our teacher resources are organised into planning, assessment, answers and glossary, and teacher notes. So this makes everything really easy to find. And just as you have a range of resources for your students at different levels, you know, these teacher resources can be really helpful to teachers with various levels of confidence. So obviously there's some teachers who are going to sail through the program, but often new teachers or teachers who aren't so confident with maths may need a bit more help, and there's everything you could need here to help you administer the program. So in your planning resources, you have a scope and sequence chart, a term planner, and we've also got multi-age and composite class planners, which can be really helpful if you're dealing with a mixed grade, so you've got mixed ages as well as mixed abilities. Further down, we have we also have articles here that may be helpful to you, such as importance of practice. I think there is an article on inquiry learning. There's a letter to parents and carers that explains that students may not fill in every page of their student book. If they're, for instance, if they're in the support group, they may only use the guided practice page and so the independent practice page. They may not get to the extended page, and that's okay, but we do have a letter there that you can use for your parents to explain that. If we move down to assessment, we've got PDF copies of the assessment book here. We also have the assessment book reading guide. Good accurate percentage once it's done a post-test. And there's also a sort of a tracking document there that you can use. We have answers to everything that has answers, and there is a glossary as well. I'll just load the rest, and then we have, we go into, there's the glossary, and then teacher notes. So the teacher notes for every topic are now all in PDF format here for you in one place, as well as being on the page under the relevant student book page. So that's a nice tab, really easy to use and really supports your teaching and learning. Now we know, of course, you've all been teaching from home the last few months really, and we've tried to think about ways we could help support you with that. And we've also tried to think about how we can support you going forward into the second half of the year. And Brian Murray's been working hard in New South Wales to create some documents that show how different topics can work together in a cluster. And this is designed to sort of help your teaching time over the second half of the year. If you've got some gaps or you know you're under pressure, you know, we know the New South Wales government has come out and said that you don't have to teach all outcomes this year because of the impact of COVID. So, you know, if you want to focus on big ideas or group topics together to save time, we are going to post some documents next week to help you do this. We'll show sort of the big ideas for each year level and list the topics that are in those ideas so you can map your way through. So we're hoping that will be really helpful to you in the second half of the year. So I'll show you some online resources now as well. As you know, this year we added a mark book to the teacher dashboards. I'll open that up here. Sorry, it's for the year 3 to 6 dashboards. I'm just going to open up my class so I can see the mark book. Scroll down a bit there. That's our overview stage. And as you know, you can also drill down and look at unit results and topic results. So as well as the mark book, we added student dashboards for years 3 to 6 with online assessment, adaptive pretests, level practice quizzes and post-tests. And we do have some student dashboards for years F to 2 at the moment, but not with the mark book or online assessment features. So we will be working on that. So this is an overview of the mark book here on the teacher dashboard. And bear with me, I'm now just going to jump over to a student dashboard so I can show you an adaptive pretest. Yep, that's in it. I'm in the student dashboard. So when your students log on, you'll see I'm now in, again, year 3, unit 1, number and place value, topic 2, odd and even. So your students will see the student book pages here, and the first thing that they will see is their pretest. So just as we have the print pretest, we now have an online pretest. The pretest is different. Online, it's based on multiple choice questions only, which is slightly different from the assessment book pretest. And the pretest uses adaptive technology to work out each student's level. So there's about 9 questions in each of these pretests, but the student only needs to do 3 to 5 to get a result. I am just going to power through one of these without looking. So don't laugh at my answers because they're totally random. There we go. So I'm done. The student clicks there, they return to their dashboard, and they will have been allocated the resources that are suitable for their level. So I can actually tell that this student has gone into the support group. I know that by the S on the practice quiz there. But I'll be able to see in mark book as well how that student or what group they've been put into. And you'll notice that the pretest has disappeared there as well. So the student can't go back and do the pretest again. If you wanted to, your student could use the pretest as a backup. There's sort of different ways to use the program. Again, we've tried to make it really flexible for you. I'll jump back into the teacher dashboard and I'm just going to hit refresh there. And I think I'm going to go in. What I'm actually going to do is go into unit 1, which is where we were working. I think I'm going to have to refresh again. I might need to go out of the class. I'll try just going into the topic. There I am, sorry. Demo student 3, I couldn't see that on the earlier screen. So there is the pretest result, the result of that test I just showed you online. So you can use this to then sort of track all your students' results. If I went on and did the leveled quiz, the result again would pop into the mark book here. I'm not going to do that, I just want to allow a little bit of time, so I might not actually do that. And you can see that the post-test result, when the student does it, will also pop in here. So you can see if you look at student 2, they did their pretest, they were given, put in the outstandard group, they've obviously done the quiz, there's the results, and here you can make some changes as well. This student's also done the post-test. So if I am to click on a student's pre-test result, you can actually change that grouping. If you don't think that student was at standard, you think they're actually a little better, or maybe they actually should be in the support group, you can make a change. You would probably do this at the start of the sequence. I'll just change that group back to at standard. But it's possible to do that. If you click on their quiz results, you can see how they did here, which questions they got right, which ones they missed. And you can do the same for the post-test over here as well. You can also add comments here, so any observations that you would like to add can go into there. I will can just pop into there. Not coming up for me. There we go. Which might be something simple like not sure about this, and save it, and that will pop into the cost field. And you can also add custom assessments by using this pop up here. You can give a title that might be a project or a presentation. You can choose which way you'd like to grade it, with a percentage, a letter grade, or a mark, or just some text. You can add in some notes about it and create. And then I think I have to refresh for that to pop up. Here it is here. You can see that nonsensical column. That's my custom assessment that's popped in there. I'll switch back to the student dashboard just for a moment, which is this one here. Just double check. Yep, demo student. So as I said, after the pretest, all the student resources pop up. So as well as the quiz and the post-test, we've got PDFs of the print post-test in case you would like your students to print those or have access to them here. We have the digital teaching object here as well, and some Blackline masters that are used for that student's group in the learning sequence. And we also show anything else that might not be in that student's learning sequence, so extra activity sheets and if there were mastery tasks and those kind of things. So everything is there for the student. I think I'm actually a bit ahead of time. I've already shown you some of the markbook features on the teacher dashboard. One thing I probably didn't mention was just reports. So you can generate reports from the markbook as well by clicking, whoops, not that one, sorry, by clicking on a student's name. You'll see progress reports come up. So this is by topic. You can see how that student did in this particular topic. You can download it as well, or you can change that view. You might want to see the view of a whole unit. We'll have a look at student 1. And you can see a fair bit more information there. So it will cover the 2 topics within that unit. Sorry, it looks like this student hasn't done all the topics there, so we're not seeing an awful lot. But you can see how you can get a lot of information at the touch of a button, and you can even do that on a whole overview level, which shows you the entire program. So once you've got to the end of the year, you can print out all that information just at the touch of a button, which is great. Remember too that obviously your students can be leveled at in different groups for different topics, which is great. That gives you great flexibility, and that's how students are. They're good at some of the topics, maybe not so good at others. So that's a really important way, in which we support differentiation there. We just wanted to show you quickly some other resources that we have to support differentiation across the program. So I'm just going to close out of those dashboards. I'll just open up PowerPoint again and click down. So one of the ways in which we help to support differentiation is our practice and mastery books that sit alongside the student book. So Annie, I'll let her talk a little bit about those.
Okay, so the practice and mastery books support and extend and also challenge students' learning. So you could give all students every page as you went along if you wanted to, but generally the the practice page aligns with the independent page of the student book. The challenge page aligns with the extended practice page of the student book, and the mastery page goes beyond that to offer lots of learning opportunities for whatever people need. Some schools like to use these as homework books. Other schools use them to sort of support and enhance the topics where students need a little bit extra.
Right. And then we have something exciting coming out later this year, which is our series of Oxford Maths Ready books. So for these books, we really wanted to look at giving your support group a better chance of success, basically. These are teacher handbooks only, one for every year level, and they're designed to almost to sort of pre-prepare your students. So looking at things like mathematical language, just little things that you can do before you get to a topic that are going to give these students a great chance of success. So again, I'll just hand over to Annie to talk a bit about those.
So I'm assuming most of you are teachers, so you'll know in your typical grade you've got sort of, you might be teaching a grade 3, but they're not at all grade 3 level. You've got typically possibly even a 5 to 7 year range within there. So there are going to be probably students who are well behind just sort of a little bit of extra support in the classroom, and that's what this is really aimed at. So it looks at building student confidence and bridging the gap to success. And in particular, Emma mentioned the language. It has two sections at the beginning, which is mathematical language and also activating prior knowledge to really, for those students, as Emma said, sort of prep them for a topic. And I know I'm remote teaching a 3-4 class at the moment, but I have 4 of them on site. And one of my students, yesterday we were doing angles, and I looked at his work and I said, "Come over here, explain to me what you've done." And I could see there was something he didn't quite get. And so I said, go and take a photo of me of a right angle, a bigger than a right angle, and a smaller than a right angle. And he labelled them on Seesaw beautifully. But what he'd done was he labelled a right angle and a left angle. And I went, there's a language issue there. And this book for every topic looks at potential language confusions for students. Also looks at potential difficulties or in particular misconceptions that they have about a topic. Like this student obviously got a big misconception and he thinks there's right angles and left angles. So it really looks at helping you to support those students to sort of get to a point where they can be in a support group in the mainstream classroom.
Right. So I'm going to click out of there now. And at this point, I'm going to ask Zena to join us and maybe to unmute the microphone. And Zena, I'll open up your PowerPoint here. I can make that full screen. Can you hear me, Zena?
Yes, I can. Are you able to hear me fine?
Fantastic. Yep. So just let me know when you'd like me to change the slides, but we'd love to hear your experience of using Oxford Maths and how it's helped you.
Yeah, okay. So as you've all been informed, I work at Amity College. I'm on the main campus in Preston's. Now, we have 3 campuses, so we've got a campus in Auburn as well and a campus in the Illawarra. We have actually been using Oxford, this is our 3rd year, using Oxford Maths. So I'll move on to why we chose Oxford Maths. So thank you. If we can go to the next slide.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so a few years back, there was just a lot of hype and a lot of talk about differentiated learning and the importance of differentiated learning and why, it's best for students. But the big question was, okay, great, we know the research, we've heard the research, but what does it look like in the classroom, and how do we do that? So when we came across Oxford Maths, we just found all our questions were answered. It was very explicit for us teachers, especially for new teachers, the novice teachers, because, you know, not all teachers have the same confidence and the same experience. So that helped all teachers, regardless of how many years experience up their sleeve. It also helps teachers to juggle in the classroom and to cater for all the differences, the different needs you have in the classroom. You've got the support students, who majority of the teachers will agree seem to take up a lot of the teacher's time. But then you've got the students who whiz through their work and sit there getting bored and possibly even making some trouble, getting up to mischief, which our teacher likes to avoid that issue. Another reason why we chose Oxford is because, as I mentioned, we do have our 3 campuses, and we wanted consistency between the 3 campuses, so that regardless what school the child is enrolled at, whether it's in Illawarra, at Preston's, or in Auburn, they all have access to the same education. And once again, with such a variety of teaching experience, we found that when teachers were programming their own program, there was just a big variety in different activities, and so students were exposed to, some students were getting more thorough, more in-depth activities, whereas other students not as thorough and in-depth. So this has helped us with that issue as well. What we love about Oxford is our the Walt, Wilt and Tib, the We Are Learning Too, what I'm looking for, and this is because Oxford brings meaning to that. All the examples throughout Oxford, it's related to everyday experiences for maths, and I barely get asked anymore, Miss, why are we learning this? Straight away, it's there, it's up on the board beginning of the week, this is why we're learning this, and it brings meaning to the students' learning, and we know that when the child's engaged and they can relate back to their everyday life, that's usually when they're when they learn better and more effectively. And also our school does have a focus on STEM or STEAM. So through different scenarios, examples, through the activity sheets, through the mastery sheets, even some questions throughout the textbook, we find that it links back to STEM and STEAM, which it also adds more meaning. And also just for those students who are very scientific as well. And so it ties in with a few other KLAs, which we find that the students do respond well to. So if we can move on to the next slide, and I'll explain how we have implemented that at Amity. Firstly, I'd just like to say the training and the support that we have received from Oxford has been amazing right from the get-go. So we did have training to start with, to support the teachers, and so that we could start with that and all teachers feel confident. Obviously, with everything else you learn as you go, but we did start feeling positive about the program. But not only that, as we taught each topic, and week by week, term by term, whatever we come across, the ladies and the gentlemen at Oxford Maths email away and quick to reply back. If we found that there was something we needed extra resources on the dashboard, like within such a short time, the resources have been developed, aligned with the curriculum, the syllabus, and up they go onto the dashboard. Obviously the textbook, because that's printed through a publishing company, obviously they can't change that as often as, and update that as often as the dashboard. However, they have been so open to our feedback as well. And so when the new publishing, I think, which is the new edition's being published this year, is that correct, ladies?
Yeah, so it's coming out in a few months, yep.
Yeah, so they were open to take any suggestions on board as well. So Yeah, just that ongoing feedback. It's great when, as a teacher, you see that you're dealing with humans, not just a money-making organisation where it's just printed and then forgotten. So that's been a big bonus. The session and the learning sequence that the ladies mentioned earlier, that is the basis of our program. So there are 4 sessions, including the pre-test and the post-test. However, at Amity, every week we have 7 periods of maths. So those 4 sessions are the basis. It's a great guide for the teachers as to what your week should look like, what your differentiated learning should look like, but then it also allows flexibility for each teacher to add more activities in there to make up those 7 sessions. And also as a teacher, I might find that either my support students I might like to add this activity in to help my support, or my extension students, their interest is in this field, so I've got more time, might like to add this activity. So it does give me some flexibility as well, which is great. Also, the pretest helps us identify our support group for that topic. As was mentioned earlier, we don't, your support students aren't the support students in every topic. They might do well in one topic more than another topic. So at the beginning of the week, when we do our pre-test, we know the students that we need to focus on for that week. At our school, some grades have split into mixed ability groups for 2 math sessions a week. So that also, once again, it helps in the consistency so that we know what's happening in every classroom. However, when we're back in the classroom for the other sessions, within those learning sessions and the learning sequences, there's a mixture of mixed ability activities and where the students are in ability-based groups. So the students are getting a good mix of learning learning alongside students who are at their level, and then students who are not at their level for that peer tuition, that peer helping, which is a great benefit for the students as well. Now, with the practice and the mastery book, Year 6, I know that I currently teach Year 6, and I know the Year 6 teacher as well in Illawarra and Auburn, we use the practice and mastery for our homework. So after we do the guided practice, that night they do the practice page, and it just mirrors what they've done in class, where it doesn't take long, which is what we love. Within 10 minutes, the students are done with the practice. Obviously, depending on the ability, some students might need some help at home as well. But really, the whole aim of the homework is not to take long and just to consolidate what they've learned in class. And it's meaningful because it's what they've done in class. And when they're revisiting those skills in the evening, there's more chance that they retain what they have learned for the next day in class, so that we can continue and build on that. And with the extended practice, now beginning of the year, I do have just a small group of students that are capable of doing the extended practice. However, by end of term 1, beginning of term 2, I start encouraging all my students to even attempt 1 question on extended practice. And for homework, there's the challenge and the mastery page. I find that even my support students, if they even attempt 1 question and they have attempted 1 question on the hard page, or something that they thought they wouldn't be able to do previously, it really boosts their confidence. And in the past 2 years, I found that by term 4, I've got majority of my class who are completing extended practice, and as well as maybe the whole page or half page of the mastery. So it definitely does build their confidence in their skills as they go. Also, it's all the resources on the dashboard were such a great guide in helping us develop our scope and sequence. And it all flows in that what you do in term 1, week 3, for example, it's the basis of what you might do later on in the year, so that your scope and sequence isn't mixed up. That was a guide on the dashboard. It was done for us. We have made some amendments, some changes, as we teach it. The next year we might make some more changes. However, it was a great foundation there for us to help us through. Next slide, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, any improvements in our students and our teachers? Well, for our teachers to start with, we now know what differentiated learning looks like, and what what the practice is meant to be in the classroom. Before, it was a matter of, not for all teachers obviously, but for some teachers, including myself, it was very easy for me to excel my students. So okay, you're on year 6, you finished your work, here you go, some year 7 work. So I'm excelling higher rather than enriching and deeper learning, going broader. So Oxford Maths has really aided myself and a lot of to see what that's enriching them deeper learning rather than excelling them higher up a grade. Just teachers with classroom management, there's no time for students to get bored. We have the activity sheets, we have the mastery sheets. I've got them ready printed off to start at the beginning of the week. So the students know as soon as you've finished this topic, or this work, this page, you move on to the next. So the work for the week is all set out. The students, and what I find as the year progresses, their abilities improve. They get to work faster and they now take it upon themselves. They become more responsible learners because they know what to do next. So the classroom works like clockwork. So it's definitely easier as a teacher. For the students, they're always on task, which is really good, not getting bored. Over the year, you do see the students improve their problem-solving skills as well as their group work and their investigation skills, so which is really good. The activity sheets and the mastery sheets have a lot of real-life examples in there. For example, when we look at number patterns, the bookwork is focusing on number patterns and building those skills, but then the activity sheet the students did was patterns in nature, and they looked at the Fibonacci the Fibonacci number pattern, and they found that fascinating. And just to work out that the state of Victoria follows the Fibonacci number pattern, or the waves and the number of petals, and they'd go outside, and after the weekend they'd say, "Miss, I picked a flower in my garden and it was the petals was one of the Fibonacci number patterns." Sorry, the Fibonacci pattern, number in the pattern, sorry. So yeah, it's good that they take that maths home and they're passionate about it, and you see that coming through, it's beautiful because maths is such an important skill for their everyday life. I've previously mentioned that as the year progresses, you do see all students attempting the extended practice and the mastery pages. So that in itself is a huge boost. And for me, the biggest achievement as a teacher, seeing in my students, is that the students who come in beginning of the year with the thoughts of, "Miss, I don't like maths," or even worse, "Miss, I'm not good at maths," by mid-year you already see the improvements, and then by end of the year they're responsible learners. They're taking things on board. They're excited to be in the classroom, and that all comes back to them being engaged through the activity sheets, through the work in their textbooks, and through the mastery pages as well. And my last slide, thank you, Emma, our COVID experience. So I'll just quickly talk a little bit about how this went. I'm not sure whether any school or any teacher found the transition to online remote learning easy. However, being with Oxford made it a little easier. The fact that all our resources were all online, activity sheets were online, our student book, all those pages are already online, so it was very easy for me to upload and to put that onto our remote learning platform. So yeah, something like that just made it easier. It was all prepared for us, making the transition much easier. A little bit more stressful. However, overall, I think it was stressful for everyone. But yeah, we managed to get through. So yeah, and that's all from me.
That is great, Zena. Zena. Thank you so much. It's always really gratifying for us to hear from a teacher who's actually using the program. I'm just going to shut my PowerPoint down now.
I'll turn my camera off as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Zena. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure.
I'm actually just going to go into, oh, you can't see my screen anymore, but we'll have, I think we've got about 5 or maybe 10 minutes left for some questions. I know Emma McGill has been watching that chat stream and might be able to read some out to us that we can respond to. And Zena, feel free to jump in if you want to respond as well. Over to you, Emma. Any questions?
Yes, we have one question from Cheryl who asks, can you see a student's progress throughout the years? So do their score, does the data roll with them as they go up the year levels?
That might even be one for Kath Stevenson to help me out with. I don't believe it does, no. I think as you populate sort of each year level in a new class, you wouldn't sort of take the year 3 data up into year 4, but you are able to export all the data from Oxford Maths into your own learning management system. So in that way, you could export the data into your school system and you'd be able to refer to it the following year.
If that's okay. Yeah, so at Amity College, we have a platform that we use, Courses, and that is for our attendance, our daily attendance, plus also it generates our reports. So we put all our data into Courses, and then we are able to use that as well with the following year for teachers. So I think possibly depending on the schools and if they do use any other program. So yeah, we're able to use the previous year's data as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Zena. We have another question from Stacey who asks, can teachers reset a pre-test or post-test if needed?
So the teachers can't reset the online pre-test. That one will disappear if you take the first result, the grouping. However, as I showed you, you can override that on the MacBook. Also, if you use the print pre-tests, same, you can do those over again, obviously because they're print, so they can be done again. With the post tests and the quizzes online, the student can do them again, but the system will only take the first result. Another way you can handle that if you want, or if the kids want to do it again, which they might, is you can set it up as a custom assessment, get them to tell you their mark, and you could record it that way. So there's a bit of flexibility there. The main thing is just that online pretest can only be done once, but you can change the result.
Thanks, Emma. And we've got a question from Christopher who asks if there's any advice for non-textbook or digital-only schools.
Well, I guess what we'd say there is for digital only, the experience is much better this year with Oxford Maths because you've got those student dashboards at 3 to 6, and you've now got them since COVID-19. You've got them at F-2 as well. They're sort of a light version of student dashboards. So essentially, you can use the program totally digitally if you so choose, and there is a purchasing model for that too that you can follow up with a consultant.
Thanks, Emma. That's all the questions. I'm just going to put an email address in the chat field so that if you'd like to email any questions through after the session, please feel free.
Great. Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much to Annie, who's here with me, also to Zena in New South Wales. It's I think one thing we've all learnt from the remote learning is how easy it is to actually join up with people all over the place and how useful it can be. So that's great. Thank you also to all the UP staff who helped make the webinar possible. Thank you to Brian, who's worked so quickly on our cluster topics, which we'll have up on the dashboard for you next week. We hope it's been of use to you, and obviously if you have any questions, please contact one of the consultants or our customer service division, and we'll try and help you with anything you'd like to follow up. That's it from us. Thank you very much.